All right, hello and welcome everybody to a little set reveal reaction that we have going here. I am Etchy. Joining me is
Jake Gearhart.
we are both from Dead Draw Gaming, and we are super excited to go over basically just all the cards that are going to be in our Twilight Masquerade set here in America / internationally. The set reveal for the Mask of Change set just happened in Japan. We're also going to be going over that set and the recent Crimson Haze set. Those are the two Japanese sets that will comprise our Twilight Masquerade set here. So there's a lot to talk about. Jake has a lot of funny ideas and combos for a lot of the cards. So if you're curious about, why Luxray EX is good, or why Festival Lead has some pretty interesting combos with like older cards, then you've come to the right place. So I think we're just gonna go and get started with a bunch of trainer cards. There's so many cards to talk about in this set. Again, two Japanese sets combined here. There's a lot to talk about. A lot of crazy and wild cards here. But I think we should just start with Bug Catcher's set. What do you think about this?
Yeah, this card's a pretty interesting consistency card. It's nothing like too crazy. It's like a double Great Ball for grass Pokemon and grass energy. Finding grass energy is actually pretty nice because you can play lower energy counts to find your Pokemon and the energies. But yeah, it's like if you're playing a grass deck, there'll probably be some Bug Catcher sets in it. As long as you've got a decent amount of grass energies. It's nothing too special though, again.
Do you think this fixes Turtwig / Torterra EX?
It's possible, but I don't think it does that much because that deck doesn't want to play very many grass energies in the first place. Like we
Right.
want to play like reversal energies and those things. If this could find reversal energies, then it'd be really good.
Sure.
But yeah, it maybe, but probably not, unfortunately.
Cool. Caretaker sucks, so we won't talk about that. Carmine, I guess it's one of the few supporters that you can play on your first turn. Do you have any opinions on this? I mean, this probably still won't see play.
I think this card actually has like decent potential to see play at some point because I think you can use it like any point in the game. It's just you can also
Oh yeah, you
play it
can.
on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first
yeah.
turn.
Okay, so it is
Um,
playable, unlike a lot of other kind of go first supporter cards that we've seen in the past.
yeah, so discarding your hand to draw 5 cards, it's like a Squawkabilly, so you can Squawkabilly and then do this as well, which is a lot of card draw. Um, I'm not a huge fan of cards like these. They're just like super turbo. Um, and so and also like the decks that want to go turbo at the same time don't usually want to go first. They're like planning to go second and do some attack on turn 1. So Carmine doesn't actually help that too much because you can already play a research instead. But yeah, it could be like an interesting consistency card. Maybe if we get like some other card to find supporters, which I guess we do have one that we can mention
Yeah, we sure
later.
do. Yeah,
But it might be a
we
bit
have two
inconsistent
that we
finding
can talk
this.
about.
Two, yeah.
Um,
But yeah, we'll get to those. This is something to keep in mind for those. Just an extra like hand fixer for turn
yeah,
1 to
and
find your basics.
it's just a slightly worse Professor's Research on those other turns. So, if your Turbo E decks can maybe make this work, depending on how the rest of the format is. Community Center, the Pokemon has read all your tweets about how bad it is that Champions Festival was going to destroy Guardy, and they've printed their own Champions Festival, except it's slightly worse.
I think it might actually be slightly better. It kind of
Really?
depends on it. Sometimes it's hard to like fill your bench with everything to use Champions Festival. Like usually you're playing a supporter card. So like more stuff can use this. With like Gardevoir currently, you probably would never play this card because like damage pump does like the same thing, but it's an item card, so you can Arven for it. But at some point, if we need stadium bumps and Guardy specifically, or anything that's like damaging itself, like Articuno, you could end up using this. But like Champions Festival with Articuno a couple years ago, you have to worry about your opponent healing themselves from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
combo. So yeah, this card does help both players, which is interesting.
They reprinted Cook. Cook rotated out, and it is coming back almost immediately. So hooray! Enhanced Hammer. This is a card everyone was freaking out about. Also a reprint of a much older card, discarding a special energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. How much do you think is going to change kind of the way things are right now? Obviously, a lot of mist energy being played. A lot of obviously Lugia plays all those special energy. Is this a big concern for a lot of those decks right now?
I mean, I think this next format's going to have a lot more special energy than we do currently. Well, as we'll get into later, there's like a Luxray EX, which really wants to attack with double turbo energies. And there's also an A-Spec energy that we'll get to in a little bit which this you definitely need for that card. So I think Lugia is going to end up in a better position than it is now next format, and so Enhanced Hammer kind of counters that a little bit. So I would expect to see this like as a one of in like a lot of decks. Anything that plays Arven is probably going to play one Enhanced Hammer. We might get points in the meta where you don't need it, but it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the decks that are playing Temple right now are kind of just playing it to counter like one specific instance of one special energy, and this can kind of just replace that and is much nicer probably in general. Fable Flute, which is another card everyone was freaking out about on Twitter because it's seen as a very strong buff to control. I remember we talked about it before, and you didn't think it was like that big of a deal for control.
Yeah, I think as control is like the Snorlax, like the quad Snorlax deck, it's not as strong as it used to be. Even though it's like the Fable Flute like makes that deck better, but you don't really need this in the Pidgeot control deck. You could see it there, but like it's much harder to recycle an item card than a supporter card, and especially this one's like unreliable. It's unlike Echoing Horn, where like you're completely removing something that the opponent can do, which is like discard their Pokemon and then keep them in the discard pile safe there. An opponent can still do this. This just like has the possibility of hitting cards off the top of the deck, but you could just miss and then like need to Silene it back, which is kind of painful. Whereas if it was a supporter card, I think this card would actually be better because you can Pal Pad it back or use Team Yell's Cheer on it,
and probably have a stronger effect too.
Yeah,
than
yeah.
that.
But yeah, it probably will see play in some Snorlax locking deck.
I guess you kind of have to play multiple of them for it to be like remotely effective, right? Which kind of feels bad with how those lists already are. And there's also more. There's like stronger controls tools coming in this set that probably makes it less important to even play Stall in the first place. Festival Grounds, which we're going to talk about a lot more as we talk about the different Pokemon that interact with this stadium later, but the actual effect is pretty insubstantial, not really relevant.
Yep, yeah, removing special conditions, it's okay. Like maybe we get a format where there's a lot of paralysis and you can put one of these in the deck, but yeah, it's just something to keep in mind, but not something that'll see play immediately.
Handy Circulator, though, is a very interesting card that just got revealed last night as well. Basically, it's a tool card you attach to your Pokemon, and if it's damaged by an opponent's attack, if it's in the active spot specifically, and even if it's knocked out, you still move an energy attached to the attacked Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon, and you get to choose, which is pretty interesting. So, obviously, very interesting tool for control. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think this card is really, really good.
Yeah.
Like immediately you can think of like Cloth EX. You can put this on Cloth and then your opponent attacks into you and you discard one energy and then move another to a useless thing. So Charizard is never attacking Cloth twice.
This feels especially strong into a deck like Charizard, where they're already like really specific and careful about where they put their energy, and just like messing with it, putting it on Bidoof and stuff, feels so bad.
Yeah, and even like Dragapult EX we'll get to later is another deck which like wants to be very careful about its energy attachments, and this thing could pose problems for it. So yeah, I think this will definitely see play. You can put it on anything really. You can put it on Mimikyu, and a Charmeleon attacks into you. You move the energy to the bench and then penny it, put it back up, and you just do that a couple times, and then your opponent has a 5 energy barrel, and then they're a little bit screwed.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny possibilities with this card. I'm terrified of it.
The one last thing is you can play this with a Reverum EX.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
Or Honchkrow V also works. You can put like 4 of these on those.
Yeah, we still have Honchkrow.
Funny combo. Yeah,
it hasn't rotated yet.
Yeah, Honchkrow gets shut off by Spiritomb though, so it's a bit risky to lead into that strategy. But yeah, Reverum, like a couple of these on Reverum, and then some of the damage reducing tools or something, and then you got something really annoying there.
Next card is Hassle, which lets you look at the top 8 cards of your deck, put 3 of them in your hand, shuffle the rest. So it's a less extreme Explorer's Guidance, but you can only play the card if any of your Pokemon are knocked out during your opponent's last turn. How much play do you think this will see?
Yeah, I don't think this will see very much play unless there's like some effect that searches for supporters specifically. Like if we get Gallade on a stage 1 or something like that, then you maybe play one of these. But you don't want to see this in your opening hand. And it's good, but it's not that good. It's like you're not seeing like too many cards to be doing something. You'd probably rather be playing like an Arvin with this rather than this or something. So I don't think it'll see that much play. But if we get like VS Seeker back or something like that, then sure, you play one of them.
Hyper Aroma, one of the first ace specs we'll be talking about here. Search your deck for up to 3 stage 1 Pokemon, reveal them, put them in your hand, shuffle into your deck.
Yeah, I don't think this card is all that good. Like I think the best use for it is maybe Golden Go. You can just search for 3 Golden Goes on turn 2, or some deck. There's another card in this set where you want to get a bunch of stage 1s in play on turn 2 to do a bunch of damage for 1 energy. So we'll mention it when we get back to that one. But aside from those use cases, like right now, stage 1s like aren't the thing that people are looking for. You're looking for stage 2s.
They're not hard to find in general. And again, there's just so many better ace specs you can play. Even if you're not playing like the 2 S tier ones, they're still, mostly the ones are still better than this. So.
Yeah. The one thing I do like though with sort of all of these ace specs is that they're at least worth thinking about. Which means that it like takes a lot more time to fully test decks, and like any inefficiencies in testing your decks, like you could miss over good ideas, like playing Hyper Aroma. Like how many games are you going to spend testing this card where it could be good? So I think that's cool that it's like adding more to what people need to test, because there's so many ace specs to get through and to consider each of them.
They're adding a lot, too, in this set. There's so many we're getting in Twilight Masquerade, which this is pretty exciting. Jamming Tower is a really interesting stadium, preventing the effect of tool cards in general for both you and your opponent. Kind of our first... Basically, our main threat for our main option for dealing with tool cards has been just throwing in Vacuum in every deck. And now this is an option as well. Obviously, Vacuum helps you get rid of stadiums, too, which is why it's really good and really versatile, and is an item card. But this card could definitely see some play, right?
Yeah, I actually have a lot of thoughts on this card. So, like, initially, I was kind of hoping they wouldn't print any, like, tool removal effect or tool no effect card like this, because we only had Lost Vacuum in the format. Or maybe they could print a supporter, and then next year, when Vacuum rotates, we'd get to use, like, all these defensive tools. Whereas with this card in the format, like, it's an answer to those again, so defensive tools are a lot weaker. But at the same time, this does like proactively counter a little bit the offensive tools. So I like that. And like Vacuum is useless against the offensive tools, like Maximum Belt. Your opponent's going to slap it down when they're taking the KO, and then it's done its job. Whereas this thing you could at least play preemptively and try to combo with Hand Disruption to maybe miss their combo. The one thing I do love about this card is that you can counter it with Soul Rock and Lunatone. So it's a weird ruling quirk, but you wouldn't know it from the text of this card. But cards can't target tools and energy cards in play. Like cards can only target the Pokemon, and then things attached to them. So this Jamming Tower is effectively targeting the Pokemon and then the tool cards attached to it.
Oh, and the Lunatone's blocking
Lunatone, blocks the effect of it on the Pokemon. So yeah, tools and energies become like an extension of the Pokemon. So yeah. Right there. New Moon. So yeah, you prevent all effects of stadium cards done to your Pokemon in play, which does prevent the effect of this stadium card done to the tools you have attached to you.
That's wild.
So if you are playing some kind of deck which really needs to use a Hero's Cape, or we'll get to another really good tanking a spec in this set in a little bit, like you can slap down Lunatone, Soul Rock, and then your attacker is surviving for 2 turns, which is very powerful.
Yeah, the preemptive nature of it is something I didn't really think too much about, and is really interesting because that's if my opponent decides to hold Max Belt or Hero's Cape until like the most important turn, it's like if they ion my Vacuum on my hand, then I just can't counter it, or they just get the effect of the Max Belt without me being able to stop it. So this is really interesting, and yeah, once Vacuum rotates, could be very, very popular too. Kieran from Mask of Chains. It's a dual effect card. You can either switch your active Pokemon with one Revenge Pokemon, which is just normal switch card, or during this turn, your opponent or your Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX or active Pokemon V before applying weakness or resistance. Pretty interesting. It's the first dual effect kind of support we've had in a little bit, and obviously the first effect very bleh, very it's just a switch card, but It is a damage boosting supporter, which we haven't really had since like Leon, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think the first effect is pretty important in that it's on a supporter card, which is very difficult
Oh,
for stall
true.
decks to
Yeah.
disrupt. Like you've got Eerie now, which can get rid of item cards, but this card is safe from that. And it's unlike Turo, where you have to like discard all the energy attached
Yeah.
to your thing. You can at least keep the energy on.
The net counter too.
Yeah, something. I think it'll come up that the fact that you can use this as a supporter card.
For sure.
I also think to like Regieleki Charizard right now, is like something that deck could probably play. Right now they're playing often a penny to sort of heal the Regieleki or Turos or something, where you can sort of get this back instead, and then your opponent can't Eerie it, and then switch out and try to beat your like stall or control decks with this effect. But yeah, having a very like decent damage boosting effect on a supporter card is really cool as well. Like I'm glad that like Iono is in the format with these cards, because like without Iono, or if we had like the Inteleon engine right now, then maybe this card might be even like too strong, because of just how aggressive you can be with it. Like think Charizard taking a 330 KO on like your opponent has like 3 prize cards left or something. It's like a lot with maximum belt and this card. But yeah, you can boost a lot of cool attacks with this. Like the Crobat, which takes 2 extra prize cards. You can slap a maximum belt on that and then do this, and then you're doing 110 damage and taking 2 extra prize cards. Could be cool. There's also a Clefable, which takes 1 extra prize card. You can boost that with this.
Oh, so as long as it's not Iron Hands, you're cool with it.
Yeah,
taking the
yeah.
prize
Well,
cards.
I think Iron Hands kind of.
You should put this on Iron Hands.
Yeah. You can use this against Iron Hand. No, but I think Iron Hands needs to be playing like other supporter cards.
Yeah,
Otherwise
they
their
can't
deck
afford
like
to, yeah.
sucks. Yeah, because they can't put any engines in play. I think Iron Hands is hurting a little bit with this set because of one A spec we'll get to in a little bit, but yeah, which I'm happy about. But at the same time, there's another A spec, which means Iron Hands is going in Lugia, which is scary.
I really like this card. I think the dual effect makes it really versatile and can definitely see play in a lot of decks. And just being able to do 30 more damage to Pokemon EX can like help cover you not using your A spec slot on like a max belt. Even just like Defiance Man plus this can get you damage thresholds that you need. So I really like it a lot. Lana's Care, which is basically Clara-ish, but not really. Put up to 3 in any combination of Pokemon that don't have a rule box and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. Obviously, the biggest difference from Clara is that rule box text, so you can't just do the classic of grabbing Radiant Zard and Fire Energy and a Psychic Energy and then have fun, right? So, what are your thoughts on this card?
I think this card is pretty weak in general. Like 3 is not good enough. Like you get 1 Pokemon and 2 energy, or 2 Pokemon 1 energy. Like Clara being able to get 4 cards was like really, really good, because you could like get 2 energy and then 2 attackers, so you have like an energy for each of them, whereas Lana's is only really getting you back like 1 attacker in total. This could see play in like some in control decks maybe over like the Super Rod, just because you can recycle it easier. But at the same time, you really need access to Radiant Charizard multiple times with the current Pidgeot control builds.
And you're not getting that.
Yeah,
so.
with this card.
Love Ball, which is not good.
Yeah, pretty terrible card.
Lucian. Each player shuffles their hand and puts it on the bottom of their deck. If either player put any cards on the bottom of their deck in this way, no.
I think this card this card means that they have to print something after Iono rotates that is better hand disruption with it than this.
Yeah.
So at least I'm happy about that. They're like they've locked themselves into a future, which I like. So that's fine. If they don't print it, then this card will see play, and that's not a good thing.
Sure.
But, yeah.
Lucky Helmet. Did you want to mention anything with that?
Yeah, Lucky Helmet's pretty interesting, because you can sort of play like any of these like stall or wall decks. Like you're often playing Rotom to draw extra cards. You might not need Rotom or like supplement Rotom with this, where you can just draw a bunch of cards off of your opponent attacking you. You can do like the Silene loop needs a little bit of extra draw, so you can put Lucky Helmet on something to do that. So yeah, it could see play in something. Also like a little bit of Iona protection, but you can always play Gift Energy to do that instead. But yeah, Lucky Helmet could see play. And like especially with Arven in like every deck, just having something extra that could maybe draw you a little bit of cards, like something to consider. Decks are really tight on space right now though, so I don't think it'll make it in.
Yeah, and with more like tool neutralizing cards coming in, it might be a little bit sketchier too. Ogre's Mask. I guess, do you want to talk about this now, or do you want to wait till we talk about Ogrepon in general?
Yeah, I guess we can mention it now just so, while we're here. Like you can you choose a Pokemon EX in your discard pile that has Ogrepon in its name and switch it with one of your EXs in play that has Ogrepon in its name. And you keep all attached cards, damage counters, everything. So you just swap out Ogrepons. There's like an Ogrepon. We'll get to later.
It's Ogrepon Thornton.
Yeah, Ogrepon Thornton.
Which is I love Thornton, and it's an item card Thornton, so big fan of it. Perrin, reveal to 2 Pokemon from your hand, put them in your deck. If you do, search your deck for up to that many Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think this card's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
I really wish Pokemon Communication was back. This is double communication,
Right.
but on a supporter.
And you have to, like, 2 Pokemon's kind of a lot, and you lose them too.
If this was like you put 2 Pokemon back and then you get 4 or something like that, then
Sure.
maybe it'd be cool. But yeah, or even like 3, but that's pretty costly. Like this card, yeah, not seeing play.
Rhyfort, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may discard any number of cards you find there and put the other cards back in any order. Is there a reason to like play this over something like Cypher?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Like yeah, maybe there's something you need to like discard for some reason, but very, very niche effect.
Mm-hmm.
At least it's like something to think about. It's not like that Caretaker or whatever above. Definitely terrible. This card could maybe see play one day, but probably
Right.
not.
All right, we're gonna get into all the ace specs now. So Scoop Up Cyclone, which is basically for those who were playing when I started playing Scoop 'em Net, but with no restrictions. You can put one of your Pokemon and all attached cards into your hand. Obviously, a pretty powerful effect. Is it powerful enough to justify playing over other ace specs?
Yeah, I think it definitely could be. I compare this card to like Penny on an item that also grabs anything. But yeah, like we saw in sort of expanded, like initially when the ace specs came out, this card was not very good. So this is a reprint from Plasma Blast, which was the set when I started playing. So
There's a little like 10-year gap between
Yeah.
us starting playing. No big deal.
so yeah, this card wasn't really good back then. Like it was outclassed by sort of the consistency ace specs and Life Dew, which your opponent took an extra one fewer prize card when they knocked out. It was a tool card. But sort of as expanded went on, this card saw a little bit more play because of like how important it was to pick up liabilities like Dedenne GX, Shaman EX, and Tapu Lele. Now we have Luminion V and those types of things, Rotom V. But also so that you can heal like your big attackers is pretty useful.
Yeah.
So you can imagine like healing a Charizard just on an item card. Arven for Turo that keeps your energy cards.
Yeah.
It's
ridiculous.
pretty strong.
Yeah.
So I actually think this card, like in current Charizard, like I'd play this card over Prime Catcher
Really?
in like the Tord Charizard deck.
And just cut like a Turo.
And cut a Turo. Because this effect is like it's very, very powerful. But there's another ace spec coming up in a little bit, which I think is gonna outclass this a little bit in Charizard and some other decks.
I think it's time to talk about Secret Box. This is a card that you can only play if you discard 3 other cards from your hand, but you get a billion cards in return. You get an item card, a tool card, a supporter card, and a stadium card. Reveal them all and put them into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. This card seems nuts.
I think it's kind of mid.
You think it's mid?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna see very much.
Really?
Like discarding 3 cards is pretty bad, and then also like you can like our stadium cards aren't that good right now. We don't have Path to the Peak, so you could get like Artisan and Apophis with this. Maybe you can like find I don't know, your Arven as well with this, and just double Pokemon tools.
Yeah.
Like it's okay, but I don't think like the payoff is good enough. If it got an energy card too, maybe, but I don't think this is like taking over the spot of some of the other ace decks.
What decks do you think would benefit from this right now? Obviously, I think Lugia is probably the big one that people would point to.
Yeah.
just to give you way more consistency than Master Ball does.
Yeah, I think Lugia definitely is like the one deck which could consider this card, but there's also a pretty powerful ace spec, which Lugia might want to consider instead, an energy card. But yeah, like Secret Box, I mean, I'd be happy if Lugia is playing this card instead of the energy, because like, yeah, you set up more consistently, but you have a much less powerful deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, this could see play in Lugia. Like, yeah, you can Arven for basically your Archeops combo. Yeah, if we had like a way to guarantee Archeops off of his stadium card, it would be really good then too, because you could grab like
Sure. Yeah, this card's like almost guaranteed.
yeah, you need to
double
grab
Archeops this card.
Mesagoza and
Yeah.
flip heads, and then you have it. But yeah, you're probably getting there, which is pretty good.
Survival Cast. If the Pokemon this card is attached to has full HP and would be knocked out, it doesn't get knocked out, and it just has 10 HP, and then you discard this card. It seems pretty strong in some ways, but also, again, I think there's just too many better other ace specs right now.
I think this card could actually see like a decent amount of play. It all depends on like how much Lost Vacuum there is in the format. Next year, once Lost Vacuum rotates and you can do the Soul Rock Lunatone thing, then to survive the stadium, then this card is like definitely pretty good, because you guarantee an attacker surviving twice.
Right, and this is a much more defensive tool than the like Max Belt or Hero Escape like we were saying earlier, where like, or Max Belt specifically, where like you can't preempt this play with you can preempt this play with the stadium, whereas you couldn't do that.
Yeah, or
Or
like,
with that you can like wait
you
for
can
the
vacuum this away or use the stadium
Yeah,
to
yeah.
counter it, whereas Max Belt you can only counter it with the stadium,
Right.
and at the same time your opponent could just bump the stadium. Whereas this card, yeah, there's too many answers right now in the format, and I think tool cards are going to become like vacuum counts are probably going to be going up. They could go down. Yeah, it kind of just depends on the vacuum count. But you could imagine this in something like Ancient Box, maybe in your attacker survives twice, which would be pretty good, or even in like Chen Pao. You probably want to play Prime Catcher and Chen Pao either way, but like an Iron Hand surviving 2 turns is a nightmare. Something with Hand Disruption and like an attacker that's like a high damage, low HP attacker where you want to get off twice, or even like a control deck where you want to just use some attack twice guaranteed. And
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that scared me initially with this is like there's a lot of damage spread possibilities right now, so obviously they can just clean up later and get their prizes on their next turn. But first, like you're saying with the Iron Hand, just like guaranteeing that attack twice is super powerful and super worth it, regardless of them taking the prizes easily with like an effect next turn.
Yeah, I think like you can always play like Switch Cart or Potion or something to heal.
You play Cook?
Yeah, you can play Cook. And there's like Manaphy and Jirachi in the format to prevent it. Like this isn't gonna be stopping like the Dragapult EX that we'll get to in a little bit, but most other decks don't really have a good way to, like, if they're planning to one shot, their game plan is to one shot, like Chen Pao. Exactly, yeah. Then this card can be pretty powerful.
All right, it's time to talk about the ace spec that is so I have not looked at the Japanese results at all. So I just asked you before we started what it's looking like, and you said this is being super played right now, right?
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, you can play this card only if one of your Pokemon is knocked out during your opponent's last turn, like the other card we were talking about earlier. Each player shuffles their hand into the deck. You draw 5 cards. Your opponent draws 2. Basically a slightly neutered Roxanne, except it can be played at any point in the game and is an item card, which is really powerful. How many decks are we playing?
I mean, I think this is like the best ace spec, like, by far.
Yeah.
Like, it beats out Prime Catcher, beats out Maximum Belt. Like this card is just so powerful, and it's like super healthy for the game, I think. Because just if you don't want to get unfair stamp, just don't take any KOs. It's that easy. It's that easy. But yeah, you can basically Arven for Shauna already, which is good enough. Like that's already a pretty strong effect. Like Arven being a shuffle draw 5 supporter now.
It'd be Youngster now.
Yeah, Youngster, whenever. The new stuff, new names. So yeah, you can just fix your hand with this from an Arven, and then you also get to just disrupt your opponent. So it's a consistency card and like a super powerful disrupt card.
Yeah, this card's disgusting.
Yeah, if you only like shuffled your opponent's hand in, then it probably wouldn't be like the best ace spec. But since you also get the shuffle draw 5, like you can put together like combos so much easier. And so you can think of it like against the Iron Hands deck right now, they go Miraidon against you, and then you go Unfair Stamp, Rare Candy, Charizard, kill their whatever. You get so much extra draw in the turn. Yeah, this card is super powerful, and I think we'll get to another card later, another EX, which combos really, really well with this card. Yeah, the ways to play around this are to put stuff in play like Bibarel or one of the draw engine Pokemon, or like a Cleffa, so you can at least drop, use your turn, or a Tatsugiri we'll get to later. But yeah, those all are like even if your opponent has one of those in play, limiting their options to only being able to use those and not having any extra draw after that, after you've already gotten the consistency benefit of this, is pretty strong.
Yeah. Also, can I just point out too? It's so wild just how powerful Arven is. The fact that it grabs like 90% of ace specs is just ridiculous. Because like all the good ace specs are like items, dude. Oh, we'll talk about this one in a second. But Boomerang Energy. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides just a colorless energy. This card is discarded by the effect of an attack used by the Pokemon this card is attached to. Attach this card from your discard pile to that Pokemon after attacking. I asked you before if anyone was playing this in Japan. You said pretty much no.
Yeah, this is it's like a cool effect, but this was seen on like a fire energy back in the XY era.
Yeah.
Like a special fire energy that did the same thing. This can obviously be used on anything, so you can play it with Radiant Greninja or Greninja EX. We'll see later, but I think those are like not good enough use cases for this card.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be some like Lugia attacker eventually where you want to like put 4 Boomerang energy on it or something.
Sure.
Could see play maybe, but yeah, it's another thing to keep in mind. They're printing a lot of cards where like they're not going to see play, but they're something to think about at least. Whereas like throughout the Sword and Shield era, we constantly get like random energy cards which just did nothing. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of nothing energy, and then cards that were like mid that suddenly became really good with Lugia. Speaking of Lugia, Legacy Energy. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides every type of energy, but only provides one energy at a time. So basically luminous energy, but without the restriction of it. Once per game, if the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage specifically, your opponent takes 1 fewer prize card. You were talking earlier about you're scared of Lugia playing this. They can throw this on Iron Hands, and then suddenly the Iron Hands is a single prizer and just wreaking havoc on you.
Yeah, like Lugia can like also importantly use this to Lumineon loop again, which was one of their like strongest plays back when we had Aurora Energy. So you can just use this a couple times on Lumineon and then Iron Hands with it. Maybe go like Iono Iron Hands at the end of the game. 1 prize or Iron Hands is very annoying. So yeah, Lugia will at least have to think about which ace spec they're playing now, because the like Master Ball definitely gets outclassed by this, but the other thing we were talking about earlier that finds all those random cards you can get back. And like you can recycle Legacy Energy, so that's why they put the once per game on it. Because otherwise that would be too powerful.
But it's still like nice to have that option to potentially recycle it, just to have another like effectively luminous energy in something like Lugia. The fact that you could do that if you wanted to is really powerful. So yeah, that's all the energy and the trainers that we're going to get from Twilight Masquerade. There's a lot of Pokemon to talk about now, so I think we'll go ahead and start with Volbeat.
Yeah, so Volbeat, you can use the attack if you go first on your first turn and just search for 2 basics and put them onto your bench. So it's like the same attack as the Bombardier EX for 1 less Pokemon, but you can find this with Buddy Buddy Poffin. Yeah, it's like a consistency card to think about in sort of the setup decks. Immediately it's not too good because you have to like get it in the active and get an energy on it on turn 1. But maybe if there's a deck playing 4 Jet Energy at some point, this could definitely slot in there.
So Alumis is the other one. Has a Slowing Perfume attack. You only use it if you go second during your first turn. Shuffle one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and all attached cards into their deck, which is a very funny effect.
Yeah, I think this card's like pretty powerful actually, because you can imagine sort of against like Charizard decks. Right now they're going to be like they usually get like 2 Charmander and 1 Pidgey in play. And if you can just do this against them and get rid of their Pidgey, then they don't have a Pidgeot on the next turn.
Yeah, Buddy Poffin searchable for both of these, so really easy to get out.
Yeah, so like this card combos really well with the Unfair Stamp, because you can like shuffle back one of your opponent's draw engine basics, and then if they take a knockout, they're going to be screwed because they have no draw engine in play. So yeah, definitely a card to consider and like worry about a little bit.
Next thing I want to talk about, we mentioned earlier about Festival Lead. There's a bunch of cards, bunch of Pokemon in this set that have an ability that interacts with Festival Lead, or like I think, yeah, it's all abilities, right? That just influence how much they can attack or what they can do or whatever. So, the Thwackey is the most interesting of those, but we can cover all the Festival Leads in general. Basically, once during your turn, if your active Pokemon has the Festival Lead ability, you may search your deck for a card and put it in your hand. And there's no restriction on that. You can have 4 of these Thwackeys in play if you really wanted to. I know we were talking about this for a Patreon bonus episode of the DDG podcast, and you were pretty excited about the possibilities with this.
Yeah, I think this card is really cool. Just being able to search for anything, like you can do this like 3 times in a turn pretty easily. You can put together so many crazy combos. Like I could imagine some kind of Thornton deck where like your plan is to play Thornton every turn, and like you just search for everything else you need.
Right.
You can get like reversal energies with this, and then like Thornton to whatever attacker you need. Get a rare candy combo. Play like 101 Charizard or something. Just get it into play immediately. Like you start off the turn by promoting your random basic with the ability, and then swapping it out for something else. Yeah, I think this card has potential, and yeah, there's another attacker that like sort of goes with this Festival Lead stuff that I think is could be pretty good. But there's also it's important to note this does evolve into Rillaboom, which is nice because it does 180, and the text isn't here, but it does 50 to itself. If it just did flat 180, that'd be like actually pretty good, because you could put like a maximum belt on it, and then like one-shot Iron Hands or Chen Pao, and then very, very annoying for Chen Pao to deal with, something with that much HP. Even ending off with 130 HP is still good after this attack. But you can one-shot Charizard for a reversal energy, or Neo upper energy, if you want to. So it's something to consider there too.
Yeah, even the first attack can be like useful in niche situations to like buy you time potentially. So pretty interesting card. Next Festival Lead Pokemon is the Diplin. I think they all have basically outside of the Thwackey, all their abilities just let them attack multiple times. So
yeah, so it's like the stadium card needs in play for these guys to attack twice, but the Thwackey works even if you don't have the stadium card in play. You just need the Pokemon in your active spot. So yeah, I don't think all these like double attack things are not too good. Yeah, it's important to know that there's like a note on here that it doesn't work with the technical machines. If you could do Crisis Punch with this, then it would be pretty broken. But yeah, this like do the wave, just doing 100 twice is like pretty mediocre. Like, the typing's good because you can one-shot Charizard, but I don't think Charizard is going to be like the 20% deck as of next set. There's a lot of other attackers to use.
For sure. Did you want to cover the other Festival Leads stuff before we
Yeah,
move on to
yeah,
Iron Leads?
we can go to those.
Which one do you want to go to?
I think there's a Goldeen, which we can. I think Goldeen's like the only other important one, and it's important not because Goldeen is good, but Goldeen actually does have an interesting attack. You flip like basically 2 coins and for each heads discard an energy, because you're attacking twice. But what's important is that this Goldeen has that ability that enables Thwackey, and then it evolves into Seeking. From 151, which has Brainwave as its second attack. So yeah, 60 plus 30 for each water attached. So it counts reversal energies. It's also got Swim Freely, which lets it combo with the Finneon, which lets you attach as many water energies from your hand to something with Swim Freely each turn. So you've got like a Yu-Gi-Oh combo here with all these different cards interacting.
It's just free Chen Pao.
Chen Pao, nice. But you can search for anything like 3 times per turn, and you're a 1-prizer. And like your Thwackeys search out your reversal energies or your superior energy retrievals. You
can keep Thorntoning to like get the Seekings back into play.
Yeah, if you want to Thornton, or just like bench another Goldeen, you can do that. This has a lot of potential. I think this deck could be actually a real deck. Like you need probably something else to like go with the Seeking, because like Seeking's probably not too great against like other 1-prizers, but maybe if you're playing some kind of 101 stage 2 line that you can just search out with the Thwackey, then you can combo it with this like Aqua Horn's a pretty powerful attack. You're just one-shotting like anything with reversal energy and like 6 waters. You're one-shotting a Charizard, which is a lot of damage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it might be hard to get the waters in general because you can't use like Champao as easily because the whole active thing is tricky. But you can just search out a bunch of earthen vessels if you want, I
Yeah,
guess.
or the
Scarier energy retrieval,
the
whatever.
letter of encouragement, I think it's called.
Right, yeah, you can
Yeah,
do Letter of Encouragement, which lets you grab 3 basic energy from your deck, but only if something's been knocked out, which will probably happen pretty often with this deck. So
yep.
makes a lot of sense for sure. And yeah, you can just search it out whenever you want. So
Yeah. Get a couple letters with your Thwackies, and you've got 6 energy right there. And then, yeah, I think the deck could be worth testing at least. It seems pretty cool.
next up is Iron Leaves, which is yet another Charizard counter answer, and also just kind of good in general. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think this card is really, really good in Lost Box. Yeah, 1 grass energy, super good because all like the current grass energy attackers cost like 2 energy, or
Yeah.
they're just not one-shotting Charizard.
Or it's Shaman, which is like
Yeah,
has its own
a
issues.
V.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Iron Leaves, it's like also like a cool like first attack. Like you could use that at some point. But yeah, you can combo this with either super effective glasses or a Cobalion to boost damage to dark Pokemon.
Or Kieran.
Or yeah, you can use your supporter card on it if you really want to. And then yeah, you're one-shotting Charizard, and so that's a pretty strong play for Lost Box to use. But Lost Box is going to be struggling a little bit in this.
Yeah, I was
set
gonna
with
say
the unfair
with
stamp.
Unfair Stamp, I don't think I want to play Lost Box at all. But we'll see how things shake out.
Yeah, at least you can put the. We'll get to it later. The Tatsugiri, put that in play too, and maybe you have a little bit of a better shot.
Ogrepons. There's a bunch of Ogrepons to talk about. Did you want to talk about the single prize?
Single prize is kind of
Okay.
bad, but
So we'll jump around and talk about all of them. Obviously, these were revealed a while ago, but I don't think we talked about it like at all. Even on the bonus episode of the podcast, I think we barely talked about it. The first one is the Teal Mask one, which is kind of the general form of it. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic grass energy card from your hand to this Pokemon. If you attach any energy to the Pokemon in this way, draw a card, and its attack just does a lot of damage for energy attached. What are your thoughts?
yeah, I think this card, like if there's ways your deck can like move energy off of Ogrepon and onto something else, then this card is like definitely like a possibility. Just being able to attach extra energies and get a card out of it is pretty strong. The attack's not too good. Like it one-shots Charizard though, so that is like if you've got how many energies on there? Yeah, if you got 3, you're probably one-shotting because they've also got 2 on there.
Right.
So yeah, one-shotting Charizard is never bad. Yeah, again, Charizard's probably not going to be like the king of the hill anymore. It still might be the best deck, but not as good as it is compared to everything else right now. But yeah, you can use the item card Thornton to swap it into the other Ogrepons, which is where things get even more interesting.
All right, the next Ogrepon is the Hearthflame Mask one, which does not have an ability, but has 2 attacks, which basically does damage for each damage counter, and the other attack does up to 280 if your opponent is an active evolution Pokemon, and you discard all energy from this Pokemon. So that discard effect only happens if they're an evolution, right?
Yep. Yeah, so I think this card could actually be pretty decent in Charizard. Like just being able to have a one-shot on Tina or something like that immediately is pretty strong. Aside from that, like the first attack actually combos a little bit with one of the other Ogrepons, which is going to be walling a lot of damage. So if you take some damage from that, then you can just explosively kill anything your opponent has in play, which is pretty strong. But I think this is probably the weakest of the Ogrepons outside of that Charizard use case. You can Magma Base into it, though, which is another interesting thing.
True,
to
yeah.
note.
Interesting. So next Ogrepon is the Wellspring Mask one. Just has a general defending Pokemon can't retreat attack that does 20 damage, and then its second attack does 100 damage. You shuffle 3 energy, attach this Pokemon into your deck. If you do, this attack also does 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so you get some bench sniping action. What are your thoughts on it? It's kind of Rapid Strike Urshifu-esque in a way.
Yeah, I think this card is really powerful. Like being able to watercolor colorless is like an easy cost to fulfill. You can use double turbo if you want to. You do like 80 and 100 snipe, which is still probably good if you're up against some evolution deck. You can do the canceling Cologne combo on Manaphy and then knock out something else your opponent has in play, which is really annoying. That it doesn't have like a ton of HP, which is like its only downside really. But it's very, very aggressive card. I think it'll definitely see play at some point. And shuffling the energy back is really nice too. Like you could imagine this in Lost Box as well, just as an like another way to use Radiant Greninja that's easier because you don't need a water energy in your hand to attach, and you get to keep the energy, so you can use like this into Greninja to do multiple attacks. Like if you're able to knock out Manaphy, or your opponent just doesn't play Manaphy for whatever reason, yeah, this card could definitely be powerful in those situations.
Sure. I also, when I was looking at these Ogrepons, when I saw the first one, I was like, 3 grass kind of sucks if you're trying to switch it around into the other Ogrepons, because the 3 grass are obviously not going to be useful for the other ones, but the water and the fire having just type and colorless is really easy to meet and switch around if you want to. Like, you could use Legacy Energy and Double Turbo, and you're set for like multiple Ogrepons, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, or Luminous Energy.
Luminous, yep. Yeah, you couldn't do Double Turbo, but you could do just normal energies like Mirage Gate or whatever. Then the last one is the Cornerstone Mask Ogrepon. This is one I like a lot. Prevent all damage from attacks done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon that have an ability. And then its attack is just a 140 Shred move. Nothing too fancy there, but also has that fighting colorless energy requirement. Basically the effect of Alolan Vulpix V-Star, but just as an ability, which is pretty interesting. I'm not sure how many things are going to be attacking with abilities in general in the next set, but seems like it could be powerful in the right meta.
Yeah, I think like Charizard is just super annoying for it to deal with. Like they basically don't have anything that can hit this for enough damage. So this card just completely walls Charizard.
Unless they're playing the Hearthflame Ogrepon.
Yeah, but even that doesn't. Yeah, you just have to.
Oh, that only hits for 140 though. Cause
yeah, only 140 because it's not an evolution. But I guess if you hit into it, that is kind of annoying because that'll hit you back for double damage.
Right.
It'll do 280 back. But you can use this to switch into that other Ogrepon. So if you're like walling the big stage 2 attackers, and then your opponent's like attacking you with like little Pokemon for little amounts of damage, you can swap back into the one which does double damage for each damage counter on it, and then one shot something. So I could definitely see this card in like Lost Box type style deck, or just anything with anything that wants to wall against Charizard and Arceus. I guess not too good against Giratina and those things, but also like the Bloodmoon Ursaluna, which we'll see later, is like another thing. If this card hit weakness, it'd be a lot better too, because you could like super effective glasses with this in Lost Box, and then you're one-shotting Arceus, you're surviving against Charizard and doing all this stuff. But yeah, the game designers are balancing this card well by not letting it deal damage with weakness.
Yeah, that means it also doesn't counter like Iron Hands, I guess. But other than that, it's interesting. So we'll go back now to the water Pokemon. We're going to go to the Poliwrath and talk about it briefly. This one also just got revealed last night. Has the uppercut attack, which lets you do 120 damage up to 240. If you do that, though, you have to shuffle this Pokemon and all attached cards into your deck. Why did you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I think this is like a really cool effect, and it's actually kind of good because you can like do 240 and then or do 200 or 220 with a double turbo. So one attachment 220, and then you shuffle it into the deck and promote some wall like Mimikyu or something, or like that Ogrepon that we just looked at. So yeah, you could create some wall type style deck where you're just doing this like shuffle back attack. We saw like a few years ago, I guess it was more like 5 or 6 years ago, Shintaro Ito created this like Greninja GX deck where you'd use this energy, which counted as like 4 energy if you had like 3 stage 2s in play, and then Greninja just shuffled itself back in the deck, and then you put up some wall and then heal it, and then use a Meganium to keep putting them in play. This like type of attack is like the same type of thing. You need 1 energy attachment, a lot of damage, you shuffle it back. That deck was like a tier 2 or 3 deck. But yeah, this might be a tier 2 or 3 deck as well. Probably a little bit weaker. Lightning weakness is not good, but I guess you're not going to be keeping this in
True, yeah, it's going to be getting out of there, but the weaker mons will be, but you can zap those regardless with Iron Hands.
Yeah. If this did like 250, then it'd be a lot better because you could one shot Iron Hands with DTE. But they refuse to give us things that do 230 damage easily.
Milotic's the next one. Your opponent's Pokemon in play, and any cards attached to those Pokemon cannot be put into your opponent's hand. Pretty interesting effect.
It stops like Turo and Penny.
Yeah, stuff like Turo and Penny and
Scoop Up Cyclone.
Yeah.
This effect is like a It's good for sort of like control decks and good against them because you can like stop your opponent from playing Turo, which can be pretty important. You stop your opponent from like healing things easily, removing things from play. So yeah, I think this effect is it's not something that's going to see play immediately. If we get like more Milotics that are good to combo with it, like if we had the old Milotic where you prevent effects done to your hand, then you could play like both of them at the same time, and I think that'd be pretty strong just to have both options. You could probably play one Feebas on one of each. But if we see something like that again, where there's multiple abilities to evolve from, this card could definitely see play.
Yeah, printing the counter to Scoop Up Cycle in the same set it gets printed is really funny. So Glalie and Frostlass are next. They both evolve from Snorunt, and they both have their own unique attack/effects. What did you want to talk about? Well, I know everyone's like freaking out specifically about the Frostlass, but why did you want to talk about the Glalie first?
Well, I think the Glalie is good just because the Frostlass is good. It combos a little bit with it, so
It just gives you a different option. Yeah,
Frostlass, like during Pokemon checkup, so between turns you put 1 damage counter on each Pokemon in play with an ability, except any Frostlass. So you're spreading lots of damage, and yeah, like there's so many Pokemon. If you can get like multiple of these into play, maybe use that A-Spec, which is 3 stage ones. You put 3 Frostlass in play, and then your opponent's entire board of Comfies is getting knocked out in 2 turns, or Bibarel, or whatever, Pidgeot. Mm-hmm. You're weakening Charizard. We'll get to the Dragapult later, evolves from a stage 1 with an ability. So this card is like, yeah, definitely has a lot of potential as like both a damage fixer and puts on pressure in itself. Mm-hmm. And then Glalie is just useful because it does 20 damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active. So if your opponent has taken a lot of Frostlass damage, you can just smack them with the Glalie and knock them out.
All right, so after that, next up is Palafin. So this card came out during EUIC. It was revealed during EUIC, and everyone I was having lunch with was freaking out. And then we kept rereading it and realizing one more thing about it that we didn't realize before. But basically, there's a Palafin EX, has a really powerful 1 energy attack, has the normal side effect that you can't attack 2 turns in a row, but the ability means you can only put into play with the effect of Palafin 0 to Hero ability, which is specifically this Palafin only can bring it into play. There's a Palafin in previous set that like lets you evolve it with the attack, but you can't use that one. It has to be specifically through this. Basically, just when this Pokemon moves from your active spot to your bench, you search for a Palafin, switch it with this Pokemon, and then it's normal like kind of Thornton effect. Everything kind of stays with it, everything attached, all effects, damage, all that stuff. And then you shuffle this card back into your deck. So it's not like evolving it, it's just straight up switching it with the card in your deck.
Yeah, actually, if we read that old it was old Finizen. Actually, if you read that now on like PKM and cards, if we go there, I think you can actually. I didn't realize this until now. Oh, you switch first. That's kind of annoying because if you switch second, you could because this switches to the bench and then you evolve.
Yeah.
Whereas if you evolve first and then switch, then you can get the EX and play with just this attack. Because you're doing both actions at the same time.
Yeah.
The ordering there is a bit
right.
Annoying.
It's too awkward. Yeah.
But there's an Abra in this set, which when it's active, you can just shuffle it into the deck. So you can sort of combo this with that Palafin, where you evolve into the normal non-hero version, switch out into Abra, get your EX in play, and then shuffle back Abra, and then you're evolved. So yeah, that's like a combo you can use. 250 damage for 1 energy is pretty good, but it is weak to lightning, which is terrible because Iron Hands exists.
Yep.
Yeah, and 340 HP, 250 damage. It's a lot, but when Iron Hands is taking 3 prize cards on you, that's not too good.
Yeah, pretty scary. Maybe someday if Iron Hands is not popular, it'll be fairly playable. Next up, it's another electric Pokemon to talk about. Luxray EX, one that you were very excited about on Twitter. It's basically a similar effect as the current Luxray V, except this thing has 310 HP, hits way harder, and also has like a normal attack that just does a lot of damage.
Yeah, the old Luxray also only gets rid of trainer cards. This gets anything.
Yeah.
So Luxray is like the perfect type for this card, lightning type. So you basically counter catcher, one-shot Pidgeot with a Defiance Band or Bibarel, and discard their card, but you also combo with the Unfair Stamp. So you like Unfair Stamp, counter catcher the engine Pokemon, knock it out, put them down to 1 card, and you choose which one they keep.
Yeah.
Like that combo is just
Ridiculous.
super powerful. And if you're like not set up to deal with it, it's very annoying. And even if you're trying to set up to deal with it, like if you're playing too passively, intentionally not going into the unfair stamp territory by taking a KO, like Luxray is just going to be getting rid of cards in your hand every turn. So you run out of resources. Like I think this is going to make like an awesome deck. Like you just keep attacking for a little bit of damage, heal it. Like you can use double turbo with this, just smack for 100 every turn.
Yeah.
And then turbo it up, keep doing it. And then eventually devo your opponent's entire board once you've gotten damage everywhere. Like against Lost Box like despises this card, like so much HP, and you're just discarding the Colress out of their hand every turn.
Yeah, it's
even
ridiculous.
a 1 card hand with unfair stamp. You can just do everything with this card. It's so cool, and like 250 damage is like not a bad closer either. Double Lightning's a bit annoying, but like you can play Electric Generator with this if you want to. But also Luxray benefits from like the consistency of Miraidon EX. So you can Nest Ball for Miraidon EX to get like double Shinx, or Shinx plus Rotom V. And then like 1 Nest Ball turns into Shinx Rotom V you draw up, and then you have like another Poffin, and your board's all set up from like a couple cards. There's some older Shinxes which are kind of cool too. There's like a Shinx with free retreat with 40 HP, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Then there's a 70 HP Shinx, which is nice to know. We have the option of, and then there's also a Big Roar, which when this Shinx is active, you can switch your opponent's active out to the bench. They choose which one to promote, but that's like an annoying effect. And just comboing it with the annoying effect of your opponent of discarding a card every turn is like I think the Luxray Tickle deck definitely play one of these
For sure.
and then you can put the escape board on it, promote it every turn. Every turn you need to be annoying, you can use it. There's also some old Luxrays which are good. The Swelling Flash Luxray, like you're not going to evolve that one so that one's not too important. You could just play that anyway. But if you scroll down a little bit more, there's the one from Brilliant Stars, which does 50 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon.
Pretty good. For 1 lightning too is ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah, 1 lightning, 150 HP, also 110 and 30 to one of your own Pokemon, like for 1 energy is pretty solid. Like just a very good 1 prize attacker. Like if your opponent's playing something with like 3 energy attached, just 150 for 1 prize is pretty strong, and 150 HP is annoying for a lot of things to deal with. Like you can one-shot Iron Hands with this and Defiance Band for a 1 prizer. That's pretty strong. So
yeah, even if they just have an energy anywhere, like Miraidon has the energy, then you get there too without the Defiance Band, which is pretty dang good. Yeah, honestly, Luxray Control seems like a really strong deck. It seems really cool. I'm down to test that a lot. Yeah,
I'm the mirror is going to be fun. Well, I don't know about fun, but it's gonna be it'll be interesting. Maybe we'll see you play a Squovit, so you can Squovit your hand to the bottom to avoid Luxray, and then have the barrel and play something. I don't know, but yeah, there's a lot you can do with it. It seems very powerful. I think it's potential to be like a tier 1 deck.
Yeah, so, for sure.
Which I love, and it's like an attacking control style deck, which is something we haven't really seen in a while. Like we've seen right now, we have the Pidgeot control, which does attack with Radiant Charizard sometimes.
Yeah.
But its win condition isn't like always prize cards. It's like often just trying to run your opponent out of resources as best as you can. Sometimes taking prize cards is the best way to do that. Sometimes other things are. But Luxray is really like a type of deck. Sort of like Lucario Melmetal is sort of the last one we saw where I compare it to, where you're just running your opponent out of resources while putting on a little bit of pressure every turn. Yeah. It's not the strongest attacks in terms of damage, but you're wearing your opponent down to the point where they're eventually going to lose the prize trait just because they can't put up attacks as fast enough anymore.
Yeah, very aggressive control deck. I really like it. Next up is Iron Thorns. Is basically just Path as an ability on a Pokemon EX. You can have to leave it in your active spot. Is this seeing any play in Japan right now?
Yeah, this is seeing actually like a good amount of play. There's actually like quad Iron Thorns deck, which just plays 4 Iron Thorns and like 4 Crushing Hammers and 4 everything. That deck's kind of annoying. I don't think it's that good. This card's like pretty good in Lost Box though. because you could use it to like one-shot Pidgeot.
Yeah,
and then,
LCC
like,
colorless was really nice on it. Yeah.
yeah, and you save the energy in play too. So yeah, very easy to use. You one-shot Pidgeot with it. You're shutting off your opponent's rule box abilities.
That's
so
240 HP? No, 230.
230, yeah. You can combo this in like the Future Hands deck. I think like Future Hands should probably play one of these.
For
Just 'cause
sure,
you can,
yeah.
You can do a lot of damage with it, and then also shut off abilities, which is pretty good. Yeah, it's an annoying card for some things to deal with, like in particular Charizard and Lugia. Yeah, the Lugia has like no way to beat the Quad Iron Thorns deck unless they play Canceling Clone, which the Quad Iron Thorns deck actually plays like I saw a list with like 2 or 3 Canceling Clone just so you can beat Mimikyu, because otherwise Mimikyu completely walls it. There was also I saw one list with Metagross where it has like top entry, where if you draw it off the top of your deck, you can put it in play. So like you don't want to start with Pokemon, so you don't want to play any basics.
Yeah.
But if you need an answer to Mimikyu, you can play emergency entry. Yeah. You can play that Metagross and a Metal Energy and like knock out things with it. You could also play like a fossil Pokemon like Archeops or something.
You do like Luxray, right?
Yeah. You could do the Luxray when you're behind. Yeah, that's also probably better. I don't know why they were playing this Metagross, but it was like in a city league and got like top 8 or something. So,
right.
Yeah, very odd. Maybe they just really want to draw 3 cards, like one out of 59 times or something.
Free extra draw, sure.
Yeah.
You just need the metal, which is annoying.
Yeah.
Clefable's the next card. Choose one of your active Pokemon's attack and use it as this attack. So when Mime Jr. came out, everyone's like, this card's awesome. And then they realize your opponent chooses the attack. This is actually lets you choose at the cost of being a stage 1.
Yeah, I think this card's like very strong, and especially because it like combos, it works together-ish with the old Clefables. We can look those up now. There's like a Clefairy, which is just a really good, because if you're building like a full Clefable deck, you can play the Clefairy with the Moon Watching Party ability.
Oh, right. Yeah, this used to be a thing.
Yeah, so you can, if it's active, you search for a Psychic for each of your Clefairy and attach it to them. You got the, this doesn't work with the emergency board, which is kind of annoying. You could play Beach Court and emergency board.
Tier Retreat, that's annoying, yeah.
But there is a Clefable EX, which gives everything free retreat. And you can just do 170, move a bunch of energy around. Then there's another Clefable, which takes an extra prize card with a more moon attack.
Yep.
So yeah, if something's knocked out by 50 damage, take an extra prize card. You can play maximum belt plus that other supporter we looked at. Do 130, take an extra prize card.
Sure.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Some other Clefables you can look at. There is like that one that makes you take 30 less from Dragon Pokemon.
Might be relevant in this next format.
Yeah, there's a Dragapult EX coming out, which could be good, and Giratina V-Star.
Yep.
And then the other the new Clefable with sort of we see the Metronome Clefable here. It's like a spiritual reprint of that the base set one. Same attack effect. That like one shots Giratina V-Star, one shots Charizard at the end of the game. Very annoying for like,
and it's just double colorless. That's so easy to hit. Yeah,
you can slot it into any deck too. Like if you just want something to answer like Giratina or like Charizard or just anything, you just put a 1/1 line in your deck and
just single price or Mew EX at the cost of 1 extra card.
Yeah, one extra card, 1 less energy. So
you
can use it with double turbo. You can use it with basic energies. Very versatile card.
Yeah, double turbo with the other Clefable gets you the Giratina V-Star.
Oh no, that way it's minus 30 damage from their attacks.
It's
not plus 30
I thought it was plus 30.
No.
Yeah, gotcha.
But that would be a cool combo. But you can just Clefairy to like use your Clefairy ability on them if you want. But we did see like it was how many years ago now? 14 years ago. There was a stage 1's deck, which was sort of just like a bunch of different stage 1 attackers. That all use double colorless energy, and Zoroark was one of them, which had the same attack as Clefable. So we could be seeing sort of a similar archetype come out like that, with just a bunch of stage 1s maybe. But yeah, Clefable, I think it'll see play at some point. It's a really cool effect.
Mm-hmm. Next up is Alakazam. We already talked about Abra, but your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. Move any number of damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon to their other Pokemon in any way you like. Obviously, it seems kind of ridiculous that just being able to move that many. Being able to like hitting into his RDX and then killing, like you said before, like killing like 4 Charmanders or something.
Yeah, so like a lot of people on first look like didn't see like the potential of this card, I think, because the last time we had this effect, it was on a Tapu Lele, a basic where you do Psychic Colorless, same effect. You don't confuse them, but the confusion is a little bit irrelevant. It could come up at some point, but
I mean,
but
if you're like
then,
wiping their baby
yeah,
board and it's
back
their only
then,
attacker, that seems pretty good.
back then, like the HP of the fully evolved Pokemon was like maximum 250. It was maybe like 230 usually, or 210 on a stage 1, and the basics had 70 HP still, or 60 or 70. So like you hit into something for 180, and then you may like you can knock out 3 things maybe if your opponent hasn't evolved them all. But we didn't have TM Devolution. We had like an Espeon EX with the Devolution attack, so that like there was a spread deck where you spread with this Tapu Koko attack and then move all the damage around and then devolve, and that was a deck. But now this play is much more powerful because you can do like so much damage to a fully evolved Pokemon. Like Giratina V-Star, take another example. You do 270 to that, knock out 3 Comfies. You do 320 to a Charizard, use this attack, move it around, and then Devolution, knock out everything your opponent has in play with that damage. So yeah, it's a very, very powerful effect. The second attack is also like useful because it one-shots Iron Hands when you have a damage modifier on it, that Psychic 10 plus 50 for each energy attached to the opponent's active. And then it also evolves from like the same Alakazam lines. You could play Alakazam EX in some type of deck. Yeah, I could imagine some deck where you're using Alakazam EX, some wall is active. You just do 120 because you're attacking from the bench, 120, then counter catcher something up, another 120, counter catcher something up, 120, and then move 360 damage around wherever you need it to be. And that could be very strong.
For sure. Next up is the Farigiraf.
Yeah, so this attack does 40 damage for each stage 1 you have in play, and it for 2 colorless energies. So like I was mentioning earlier, the stage 1's deck, I could imagine some Farigiraf, Clefable deck. Just play 4 double turbo, maybe some other energy. You can even use like the Clefables and maybe EXP shares. Just use a couple Clefairy effects and then get some extra energy in play. It also evolves into the Farigiraf EX, which is
Does
nice.
it require dark energy? No, it's
Nope.
psychic. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
psychic.
Awesome. It's a Terra Dark. Interesting.
Yeah, very annoying for basic EX decks like the Iron Hands deck, which is cool. So yeah, like some deck which just plays a bunch of different stage 1s and some stage 1 box, kind of what Zoroark box wanted to be, but a little bit more traditional. Just play a lot of stage 1s, just Barrel, Farigiraf, Clefable. How much damage can you get up to with that? That's like 200 and it gets up there. Yeah, 240 and then minus 20 with you see you can one shot stuff with a good amount. Yeah.
So let me find it. Screamtail EX has the Shriek attack that you can use if you're only if you go second and only during your first turn, basically just preventing your opponent from playing a supporter card.
Yeah, so this card, like, it could see a little bit of play. I think the effect is like pretty powerful. Like you're probably stopping your opponent from getting the turn 2 Candy, Charizard, or Candy, whatever stage 2 they need. You could also play this in like Lost Box. So if you go second, you play Colress, and then you use this Screamtail. Like in the mirror, you go second, you use the Colress, get some cards in the Lost Zone, put up Screamtail, Shriek, and then your opponent can't play Colress. So you've played 2 Colress before your opponent can play even 1. So that's pretty powerful.
That's pretty powerful.
So yeah, you could use it there. I think it seems like pretty strong in Lost Box just in general. Like Crunch is not like a terrible attack either. It could come up at some point, but you're just shutting your opponent off of stage 2s while you're building up your Lost Zone, because you're not going to Mirage Gate turn 1 if your opponent has like something active that you don't really care to Cramorant, or you don't want to Cramorant because your opponent can unfair stamp you. You can Shriek instead.
True, unfair stamp adds another layer to that for sure.
Yeah, you can Shriek instead to set up your board a little bit more. So yeah, I think it could see play.
Yeah, we want to talk about the legendary trio from Mask of Change, which is Munkidori, Pheasantipity, and Okidogi. They all have interesting abilities or attacks. So Monkey Dory has the ability, if you have any dark energy attached, you may use this ability, move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. We talked a lot already about like attacks that can almost hit really high numbers and hit knockouts, and this can kind of fix that for you and just clean up things. So it seems like a pretty good ability as long as you have that dark energy attached. It is important to note that I think none of their attacks on any of these require dark energy, so it is kind of just like an extra thing, but can definitely be useful.
Yeah, you can like combo this with like Articuno, the paralysis one, to just sort of
Yeah, and just
infinite
heal
with that
yourself.
if you want.
Yeah.
Or like if you have Frostlass, you can and like no other really abilities, you can just put a dark energy on this. It'll take damage from the Frostlass, then you'll get a bonus 3 damage counters every once in a while. Or you can use it just to heal against like if you're playing some stage 2 deck, takes a hit, you move some damage off, and then like maybe fix your math a little bit, and annoy your opponent's math. So I think and you can also do like some crazy combos with this. Even if you go like you have this in play for one turn, you put a dark energy on it, you move 3 off, then you penny it, put it back down, move 3 more off, and then devolution or something. You can get like a double KO out of nowhere with devolution. Yeah, could definitely come up.
And yeah, these are basics too, which is super easy to slot into any deck that has just the dark energy available for it. Pheasantipity, if there's damage at all and has dark energy attached, you flip a coin and then you prevent damage if it's heads. Sack also just does damage for each energy attached to it.
Yeah, so I think this is like an attacker Gardevoir EX can use sometimes. You can play Luminous Energy or the new special energy a spec on it and sort of do a bunch of damage with that, and sort of avoid knockouts too, which could be strong. Yeah, I think it probably won't see too much play, but it's something to think about.
Yeah, also steel weaknesses or metal weakness is interesting on that. So what's the other one called?
Okie
dokie. There we go.
Yeah, the final one of the trio. Again, if you have a dark energy attached, this one gets 100 extra HP and its attacks do 100 more damage. So 230 HP, 170 damage for fighting dark effectively.
Yep, there's your hands counter.
Or fighting luminous energy. So I think this card could be really strong in Lost Box. Just a one prizer with so much
Luminous
HP.
work like that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Luminous, yeah, it works as a dark energy and a fighting at the same time. So you can go fighting luminous.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and then I think this is like it's a hands counter in Lost Box. The energy cost is like definitely a bit awkward. But you could play this in sort of a Roaring Moon Lost Box deck. Maybe have even a couple luminous energies in there, a couple fighting energies. Just being able to do 170 with a one prizer that's got 230 HP can definitely come up at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter is already playing fighting for the Groudon. I mean, this could kind of slot into that same slot, or even combo with Groudon in those Lost Box lists and still be pretty effective. And just hitting hard and not dying seems pretty good.
Yep.
So let me scroll for that. So I think the next one is Conkeldurr. Just 250 damage. Pretty steep energy requirement, but it is an evolution, so you can use a reversal to help with that. If this Pokemon is affected by a special condition, you ignore all the energy costs as well, so even easier as a result.
That's what makes the
that's
card
what makes
good.
It funny.
Because you don't have to play any energy in a deck like this. Like you probably play a couple Jet Energy just because you can switch.
You just need to actually poison it or whatever. Probably
you can
poison
do the Brute Bonnet combo. Poison. 250 damage. If the Spicy Season Curry was still legal, then it'd be pretty good.
Right? Yeah.
Because you just do 250 with an item card. That'd be pretty strong. Right now, like needing the Brute Bonnet on the bench and a tool card is pretty annoying, but yeah, could see play at some point. 250 damage is not bad.
Yeah, for sure.
And 180 HP too. That's a lot of HP.
Pretty hefty. Greninja EX is one that everyone is freaking out about. It is actually Rapid Strike Urshifu 2.0. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, do 120 to 2 Pokemon, can be benched, can be active, whatever. And it also has like really strong just 1 water attack as well. Obviously that Boomerang energy could combo with this because you actually discard the energy, but still not super popular with it. But yeah, seems really strong fighting type. Uses the water energies for its cost and 310 HP. What's not to like about this card?
Yeah, I think also importantly, this like one-shots Luxray EX for 1 energy.
True, that's crazy.
So Luxray becomes more popular, then this card can be a pretty solid counter. Yeah, Rapid Flow was a good attack like 2 months ago. It's not worse now. It hasn't actually been seeing that much play in Japan, but I think there just wasn't the right metagame for it. Like Charizard can play around this like Rapid Flow attack pretty easily, because especially the Terra effect on them, like they can't be damaged,
Right.
which is annoying for Greninja EX. But I could definitely like at some point this probably will see a lot of play. The effect 170 and searching for any card already is like so strong. Like you can play this with Pidgeot, and then your opponent either hand disrupts you, and then like you keep your Pidgeot in play, or they kill your Pidgeot, and then you have whatever card you searched for from last turn. So yeah, 1 energy 170 is just really good. And then there's also old Greninja EX, which is pretty good as well. It's 2 energy 120, and if your opponent already has any damage on it, it does 120 more. So you can sort of go like Rapid Flow into like this attack, or like if you're against something like a Psychic deck like Gardevoir or something, then you can be using this one as your attacker because the other Greninja is weak to Psychic.
Yeah. Are there any
yeah,
good?
The Strafe one is like probably the
Oh yeah, this is the Strafe.
the only good one. The Froakies aren't too good.
Yeah, none of these look.
There's like a Froakie which searches for more Froakies, but
is that in
like
the new set?
Yeah. But yeah, that's not too impactful. Yeah, like it's better than having nothing. Yeah.
Sure. Paralysis, but a coin flip. Okay, but yeah, it seems like a really strong card. Could be a really strong deck in general. Big fan of it. I'm as a big Rapid Strike enjoyer. Tinglu, ground crack. If a stadium's in play, this attack does 30 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Then you discard that stadium.
Yeah, so 30 damage spread everywhere is not bad.
Yeah.
Right now we have Manaphy, which is like a bit annoying. This card probably won't see too much play right now, but next year when Manaphy rotates, and if we don't get like another basic bench protection, we only have the Rabska. Definitely this card could see a good amount of play.
You can combo this with the Tinglu EX too to just cancel a bunch of abilities, I guess. Which I guess, how does it work again? I don't remember.
Tinglu, when it's active, if something already has any damage on it.
It has to be active, okay.
Yeah, Tinglu has to be active. You can play Tinglu with Frostlass though if you want. Damage everything with an ability, and then nothing has it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's something to watch out for. Could see play at some point.
Mightyena, we wanted to bring this up because 90 damage for each of your bench Mightyena, that's going to hit really hard, really easily. Obviously, just 1 Dark Energy, stage 1, really easy to get out.
If you have 4 Mightyena play, 3 on the bench, then you're doing 300 damage for 1 energy, which is a lot of damage for 1 energy. Even if you only have 2, you're doing 210, or no, 240. Yeah, 240.
And we have the A-Spec to search out 3 stage 1s, so there you go.
Could see play at some point.
Yep, Root Bonnet, Rattling Strike, 50 plus damage, 50 for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. Just hits really hard. Not super good, but it is an ancient card. You could slot it into some of those ancient decks, like either the Roaring Moon or the Ancient Box right now. Could maybe slot in one of these and fix math, or just you do a baby Roaring Moon hit for a low amount of damage and then just clean up something later with the Root Bonnet potentially. Let's see, what's next? Rev of Room.
Yeah, this one is only worth mentioning because we have the old Reverum, which has the drawing ability. You discard an energy and draw until you have 6. This one-shots Chenpao and has 140 HP. So if you have a bad Chenpao matchup and you're playing Reverum Engine, you put this in there and you can attack for whatever energy you want and just one-shot.
Easy peasy. Now it's time to talk about the big scary thing. Dracloak/Dragapult. Dracloak has a reprint of the Airmail ability from the past. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put one of them into your hand. The other card goes to the bottom of your deck, so just extra draw power. Really, really useful, really powerful. And then on top of that, it evolves into Dragapult EX, which does 200 damage, puts 6 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon any way you like, 310 HP, no weakness.
320 HP.
Sorry, 320 HP, yeah.
No weakness. Awkward energy cost. Fire Psychic is not ideal. We've been seeing like a lot of Japanese lists playing the Xatu. I think there's a better way to play it, but I'm not going to spoil what it is yet. We'll see if people figure out. I've been testing it a little bit already, actually. But I think this card is really strong. Like you can do 200, 6 damage counters, then like counter catcher something up, another 200, 6 more damage counters, and then devolve like 4 things at once. Very, very powerful. You can win the game in like so few attacks. Also good against the Iron Hands deck. You can do 206 on a benched Iron Hands, and then like they can't switch cart around it. And then you counter catcher and KO both of them at the same time and disable the baton. So yeah, you can do some pretty crazy board wipes. And then there's also an old Dragapult, which is pretty interesting. Like one of the most interesting effects like ever on an attack. Dragon Launcher, you can discard any number of your bench Dreepy up to the number of your opponent's Pokemon in play. Then for each Dreepy you discarded, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon and do 100 to it. You can't choose the same Pokemon more than once. So you can like put 6 damage counters on Manaphy, then maybe Radiant Alakazam or Hawlucha to knock out Manaphy, and then Dragon Launcher and wipe your opponent's board. So Dragapult is like a board wipe deck, which is like try and win the game in as few number of attacks as possible. Like you're going to be falling behind like quite a few prize cards because it'll take a while to get the right energy in play. But yeah, I think like no weakness and 320 HP, and yeah, it's very solid.
Really, really strong.
And a great ability on the stage 1.
Yeah, super useful. You just have a bunch of those ready to rock on the... you can use this multiple times during turn for every Dracoloak, so can definitely get a lot of cards drawn and whatnot. So Tatsugiri is the next one to talk about. It is a card you think will be in most decks. It's basically Pokegear, but in a Pokemon. So when you do get unfair stamped, you have one of these on your bench. They take a knockout, you promote it, and you can bail yourself out of it.
Yeah, I think this card is like crazy powerful. You can Buddy Poffin for it. It's got 1 retreat, so you can put the emergency board on it. Every turn, just find whatever supporter you need. Makes Iono a lot weaker and unfair stamp because you just have an out in play. So yeah, I think this card, it's like just an instant inclusion into any deck which plays Buddy Poffin, and even decks that don't, like Ancient Box, will probably play this as well.
It's just too good. Farfetch'd, Sonic Duty. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you search for a tool card and attach it immediately. Which tool card are you thinking of with this?
Yeah, I think just you can use the TMs with this, so you can use like Technical Machine, Evolution, Jet Energy, the Farfetch'd active, and then Evolution right away. Yeah, it's like another cool, unique effect that is something to think about always.
Mm-hmm. Blissey EX seems like a very powerful card as well. Once in your turn, you may move a basic energy card from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. Doesn't have to be this one. It could be any of them. And then you can do return for 180 damage and also draw a bunch of cards. So stage 1, 300 HP, move around energy as you see fit, and deal decent damage and draw at the same time.
Yeah, and it also evolves from the 151 Chansey, which is if it's in your prize cards and you take it, you can put it on your bench and then flip. If heads, you take an extra prize card. But even the fact of just being able to take it and then put it on your bench is like good. Because if you want to like chain Blissies and you prized a couple Chanseys, like you get to bench them immediately after taking them off the prizes, which is really cool. But yeah, there's like so many things you can combo this with. You want some type of energy acceleration a little bit, so you can use Magma Basin and then move it to the Blissey. You can use Ogrepon. You can use Dark Patch. Like I was actually trying a couple games with like Lipard engine. So you can Dark Patch to Lipard, and then I had like Roaring Moon in there, so you can attack with Blissey or Lipard and then move the energy where you need it to be. And then you can Sharon's Carrot. Because it's a colorless.
It is colorless.
So 300 HP, Sharon's Carable. The game's slowing down, and these cards are like there's so many cards which just are not one-shotting anymore, which I'm like a huge fan of. Like Chen Pao's the only deck in the format really that's one-shotting anything before like the last turn of the game with Charizard.
Yeah, really bulky, really cool card. Big fan of it. Ambipom. Next one, Wicked Tail. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may flip 2 coins. So you were talking before, if you unfair stamp and I flip 2 heads with this ability, then you just lose your cards.
Yeah, you have no hand. This card, like, probably not like too good without ways to devolve things. But at the same time, we do have Scoop Up Cyclone now. So any of those like once during your turn when you evolve abilities, like you can chain them now with something that gets back item cards, which always something to worry about or consider.
The last card I think we'll talk about here today. It's the Bloodmoon Ursaluna EX. This was already revealed. The Japanese players have already been playing with it. It is very powerful. People equate it to Radiant Charizard because the effect and the ability are very similar, where basically for every prize card your opponent's taken, the attack costs 1 less colorless energy, but it doesn't have any sort of color at all. So it is just straight up 5 colorless. Hits for 240. Can't use it again the next turn unless you switch or do whatever you want to do with it. I obviously very powerful in a lot of different decks. I think you could throw this into Lost Box and just hit without needing to do the Radzard stuff, and without needing to use your Radiant slot on Radzard. And yeah, it can just be thrown. You can combo with so many other things, I feel.
Yeah, basically any Lost Box, every Lost Box list in Japan, even like Giratina decks are playing this card.
Yeah, there's no reason not
it's
to.
in random other decks too. Like I saw it in Charizard, I saw it in like whatever. There's just so many options for this. 240 is very good damage. One shots Iron Hands. It doesn't one shot itself, which is cool. Like you can you can like penny this as well. Like 260 HP is a lot of HP.
Yeah.
You can go Hero's Cape, penny. If you've shut your opponent out of the game with an unfair stamp, you can just do like a couple of these attacks with penny and Hero's Cape, or well, I guess you can't Hero's Cape with unfair stamp, but you can Bravery Charm, and 310 is still a lot of HP. So you can penny loop it, Sharon's Care, anything. Any deck that plays double turbo too is like attacking with this pretty easily. When your opponent's taking 3 prize cards, just 220 damage out of nowhere is super powerful.
All right. Any last minute thoughts on this set as a whole? How excited are you for it? It seems like the game designers are going. They're having fun with this.
Yeah, they're going crazy. They're finally like they've gotten into a groove, and they're printing a lot of cool cards. I think the last card that they printed that I really hated was Iron Hands, and since then it's been all uphill. So, this set is huge. There's like potential for like 2 more like tier 1 archetypes, the Dragapult and the Luxray. So many tools for Lost Box, so many tools for other decks. I think it could. We also the Ogrepon stuff, which is interesting. I don't know how good it's going to be. So many like rogue deck options, like Blissey, and I know like Little Dark Fury is going to be happy with how many decks he can build out of this set.
For real, there's so many cool things with this. Like, I'm really excited. I thought they kind of revealed all the good stuff already, and then they revealed a bunch of stuff last night, and I really liked a lot of it. Super excited. We'll be bringing you a lot of content with this when it drops. I'm really excited for this to be effectively our NAIC format too. So it should be a lot of fun. Thank you all so much for watching. Jake, where can people find you after this video?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Jake K. Gearhart. I tweet a lot. So.
Yeah, Jake loves to yap about these cards. So if you want even more findings, be sure to follow him there. You can also follow me on Twitter, Etchy at Etchy OK. I also stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Etchy. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our sponsors, Cutter Tap and Dual Spec, and we'll see you next time.